Alright everyone, we start off today analyzing the concept of a Trump-DeSantis 2024 ticket. Of course, I've got other potential tickets that I would like more, but I'll get into that. Link in the description. This particular article talks about the 12th Amendment and the insinuation that a president and vice president can't be residing in the same state. There's a fairly easy workaround to this. It's mentioned in the article, especially in the context of Bush-Cheney. But I'll get into that and my thoughts about the ticket in general. Keep in mind as well, pinned comment on YouTube and cross-platform also in the description. I did a debate yesterday with Dave Smith on Liberty Lockdown, which appears to have had an extremely good reception. Very good debate, by the way. Link, again, there to the YouTube variant. You should check it out. And then second link, there's also a poll on who won the debate. You can participate, but I do appreciate if you actually watch it first. I know there are some people that'll participate in a poll and they'll vote before they actually watch it, either for myself or for Dave, simply because they're part of our audiences, and so that can be a little bit of a problem. So yeah, and also subscribe to Liberty Lockdown, subscribe to that channel. Clint is getting closer and closer, gained a huge number of subscribers in the last 24 hours. We'll try to get him to 10K, so make sure to leave a clank up in his subscriptions as well. Now, to the Trump-DeSantis concept. The first part is the 12th Amendment, prohibition on the president and vice president being from the same state. This article gives a very easy solution to that, which is that Donald Trump, who is not currently in office, wink wink honk honk, can move wherever he wants. He's being sued by New York, but he doesn't have to go back to New York. He can buy up a farmhouse in any state and declare himself a resident effectively. Some states have effectively no rigorous process for establishing domicile there anyway. So if Trump buys another property and it's out in like Kansas or something, or Alabama all of a sudden, or he suddenly establishes a ranch in Texas Bush style, that would probably be a foreshock to him choosing DeSantis, because there would be no other reason for it. So we'll be on Trump property watch over the next year or so. I do suspect that after the midterms he will declare an intent to run for office. I don't think he should do it before the midterms. I think he should wait until like 48 hours after they're over. Let your endorsees that have won take a victory lap and MAGA it up, go to a couple of rallies, and then inexplicably go to Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. Go to Biden's hometown and declare there, because it would be fucking goddamn hysterical. Here's the thing. If he does take up DeSantis as his running mate, and again, I think that there are better choices, and I'll talk about that separately, I would be fine with that ticket. I am not, a jury is still partially out on DeSantis. I do like how he's walking the walk on multiple issues. So CRT, he's gone all in against that. That's good. That's really good to me. The education is important. We've already wrecked the educational system with lockdownerism and remote schooling and caused a massive drop in test scores, and it's massively disproportionate across the board. DeSantis is like, well, you know, we don't also have to destroy it with woke math, teaching 2 + 2 = whatever you imagine it to equal. We don't need to teach people to be sad and feel guilty because, you know, their ancestor 300 years ago did something, because pretty much everyone's ancestors were attacking each other 300 or 400 years ago. So I appreciate that. I like his walking of the walk on lockdownerism. You'll remember DeSantis was supposedly going to kill off all of his own citizens by keeping the beaches open back in 2020. So he gets credit for that. The Floridian economy is healthier than in most states at the moment, which is obviously good. You didn't have the kind of massive port closures there that you had in certain other parts of the country, giving a much-needed lifeline, I will note, to other states. So I do appreciate that he's walked the walk. Anti-censorship. He's struck bills to try to go after big tech firms for banning Floridian citizens for no legitimate legal reason. Upholding 230, by the way, I would point out in the process. I appreciate these things. However, he does at the end of the day strike me as MAGA light, and having effectively climbed on board because he got Trump's endorsement, understands he wouldn't have won without it. He won by 0.2 in his election bid. While he will win by a much larger margin now that he has established himself, and he's a fairly popular sitting incumbent, and he has a weak opponent, by the way. Christ is not that well received among Democratic voters, at least the leftoid ones. I think he coasts to re-election 5 to 10 point gap. It's not going to be, in my opinion, that close. Same with Greg Abbott versus Beto O'Rourke, even though Beto keeps trying to do the midlife crisis thing and set himself up as some sort of figure of virtue. It's just not working. Your attempt to be Lincolnian is not very successful. My problem is that when I look at him speak, when I look even at the actions he's taken, it seems like it's more to gain approval than to actually do what is constitutionally right, etc. Now, that doesn't mean he'd be a bad VP. Of course, if you feel that kind of egotist pressure, and you're like, well, I want to be well received, I'm doing this because my constituency wants it, that is kind of a goal now. The idea that you have to have some sort of deep-seated ethical Lincoln-style appreciation for human rights or something in order to govern. No, you just have to fear your constituents. Especially for state representatives, that's literally what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to rubber stamp what their constituents want more than anything else. This has been entirely lost on most of Congress. Governor, little more leeway, executive level. Overall, though, I think that the ticket would work. I think it would work fairly well. Desantis would I think, bring a hell of a lot of the Trump derangement syndrome sufferers back as well, whose big thing is my jab. Trump locked everything down. He's a sellout, which, isn't true, but it's a perception among some, probably millions of black-pilled former MAGA or, edge of MAGA voters. DeSantis, I think, would seal that deal. I think there are better alternatives, though. I think the main one is Rand Paul. I think Rand Paul would make the best VP choice, especially since once he gains that executive experience as VP and becomes the quasi-incumbent thereafter in 28, he would be capable of running for the presidency, and it wouldn't, I think, be difficult for him. I think Rand Paul is someone that Trump can genuinely trust, and I think DeSantis, his loyalty to the edge of MAGA and his unwillingness to criticize Trump, which people have noted in the legacy media, not without bad reason, is mainly prefaced on his reliance upon Trump. He realizes that he won his election because of Trump's endorsement. It was a razor's edge. He would have come in a few points behind his Democratic opponent. By the way, the Floridian people were saved by Trump and DeSantis already, which they would win easily in Florida if this were the ticket. It would no longer be a swing state for the purposes of the 24 election. It would be called on day one. And that's because the opponent of DeSantis has had numerous scandals. He's currently being sued for millions of dollars for, fraud and embezzlement schemes and so forth, along with several cronies. They also found him passed out in a hotel room with meth and shit like that. He swears the drugs weren't his. All I did was booze up and pass out, he says. That wasn't long after the election, too. Florida really dodged a bullet. So, on that token, if you want to take Florida off of the chessboard for the 24 elections, yeah, Trump DeSantis would be perfect, to be clear. I think Rand Paul would be a better choice. I think Kristi Noem would be up there. Hell, Carrie Lake does a really great job if she weren't just barely sinking into her position down in Arizona, which she will be. She will win against Katie Hobbs, I think, fairly easily. She'd be a good running mate as well. Arizona, a critical state which had been moving more blue, although the border crisis appears to be moving it in the other direction. The Southwest is really in flux right now. The paradigm shift has not stabilized fully, just to be clear. It hasn't stabilized in the Midwest states either, like from Pennsylvania through on to Wisconsin. That's all in flux still too. The social paradigm is beginning to, I think, sort of settle in. The left has gone as far left as it can, basically. Is really, unless they outright become literal communist self-avowed, there's nowhere else for them to go. MAGA has stabilized. The neocons and neolibs have sort of formed a defensive core because they're so afraid of MAGA. But as far as the actual political results, the trickle down to the public and their sentiment, we're nowhere near the end of the final shift in the electoral map. It's going to be a wonderful election in 24 regardless of what happens. I'm just hoping for the best of all possible outcomes. In my opinion, the best possible outcome is Trump wins re-election. There's your all-American comeback kid story. The nation could use a good morale boost. Get Rand Paul in there. Groom him for a presidential run by giving him what he doesn't have. The one lack he has is he doesn't have any executive experience. Rand runs. Let Rand take up Ron DeSantis as his running mate. That would be a fucking dream team too. Trump gets what he wants. Not only does he get his second term, he gets a dynastic series of terms thereafter by people who he's been friendly with, endorsed, etc. Probably like that for protection from his family against continued political harassment as well. Rand gets a presidency on the back of the fact that the one thing that he lacked, he got as VP, which is executive experience. Ron DeSantis gets to secure another term as a popular governor in a competitive state. He gets kudos for that, probably continues to do a good job. Then he climbs aboard. He gets the VP slot for Rand's term, or 2 terms. I think he'd probably be a 2-termer. DeSantis is then at magically the perfect age to run himself, and then on into the future. Maybe he takes Tulsi Gabbard up. She's switched parties by then because the Democrats keep hanging themselves. I think that Rand Paul would be the better choice. If Trump does go with DeSantis, and we will get a foreshock, again, as I said, if the plan is that Trump has to move residency, look out for that. That means DeSantis is 99% going to be his running mate. Or Trump's just trolling DeSantis. That would be funny. I think it would work. Yeah. It would be the second best possible ticket. I guess you could say Carrie Lake, but she's not there yet and probably wants to continue on in her job in Arizona. Kristi Noem would be a decent idea. Some people who he should not consider, Mike Pence, Pompeo, certainly not fucking Ted Cruz. If Trump chooses Ted Cruz, then once again, much like with Mike Pence, I'll say, oh my God, I have to question your sanity at this point. I think that'd be a problem. Nobody wants the Canadian butter cow dude, Booger Ted, being vice president. We don't want him a heart attack away from the presidency, Donald. Just to be clear, even a core MAGA, I think, would be a little bit hesitant at that point, and it might hurt. That's about all. Peace out.